Hello, I'm Alan Stanley. I'm one of the licensed lay ministers in the Elmeet Trinity Benefice. Welcome to this reflection for Monday, the 15th of March. We're going to be looking at John chapter 4, verses 43 to the end. It's just a week ago that over 11 million people tuned in to watch the Harry and Meghan interview on ITV. Add to that the 17 million who watched it the previous day in the United States and the many more who've watched it on catch-up. And we can see what a compelling combination royalty and words is. We see the same combination in today's Gospel reading, but there is a real playing with ideas in John's account of a member of the Jewish royal household asking Jesus for help to heal his son. The royal official who approached Jesus must have been a senior official in Herod Antipas's household, because he himself had servants. Yet he approached Jesus with all the deference he would have shown to Herod, and he does exactly what Jesus tells him to do. Does he recognize in Jesus a king greater than Herod? Does Jesus recognize in him someone humble enough to ask an itinerant preacher for help? Here's the passage, John chapter 4, starting at verse 43. When the 2 days were over, Jesus left Galilee. He himself had declared that a prophet is not honoured in his own hometown. On his arrival, the Galileans received him well, having seen that he had done in Jerusalem during the festival, which they too had attended. He went again to Cana in Galilee, where he had changed the water into wine. And there was a royal official whose son was ill at Capernaum. Hearing that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went and asked him to come and cure his son, as he was at the point of death. Jesus said to him, "Unless you see signs and portents, you will not believe?" "Sir," answered the official, "come down before my child dies." "Go home," said Jesus. "Your son will live." The man believed what Jesus had said and went on his way home. And while he was still on the way, his servants met with him with some news that his boy was alive. He asked them when the boy had begun to recover, and they replied, "The fever left him yesterday at the 7th hour." The father realized that this was exactly the time when Jesus had said, "Your son will live." And he and all his household believed. This new sign, the second, Jesus performed on his return from Judea to Galilee. In the course of over 30 years working as a general practice and hospital dentist, I met many people who hoped that I could heal them, although admittedly not many of my patients were close to death. Some I was able to help, some not. I think in all those 30-odd years, the patient that I found the most difficult was the special branch police inspector who always wanted to be in control of what was going on. He just could not make the switch from being the boss to letting me do my job, and that made it difficult for both of us. The royal official in this story didn't make that mistake with Jesus. He knew who was in control, and it was not him. In my practicing career, I also found out that celebrity and status don't really count. As my hospital boss told me early on when we were operating on a soap star, they all bleed when you cut them. The royal official's status got left at the bottom of the hill when he made the arduous journey from Capernaum to Cana, a journey of about 25 miles, with an ascent of over 1,300 feet. With Jesus, he was just the same as any other father, just like a father in the poorest of families, a man concerned for his son. I saw this leaving status at home many times in my practicing career. Two people in particular stick in my mind. The first was, he was an international rugby player who turned up at my surgery in Headingley one Saturday morning with a painful tooth. He was a big, intimidating presence, but at the dentist's he was quiet, apprehensive and grateful. The second was David Hope when he was the Archbishop of York. He was in my waiting room in Scholes one time, And the couple who were next in for an appointment said to me when they came into my room, "Who was that vicar in the waiting room? What a nice man." The Archbishop had totally laid aside his status and simply chatted to them. I don't know if you know this, but in England and Wales, archbishops come only after the royal family and before dukes and everyone else in the order of precedence. Yet David Hope, like the royal official in our reading, became just another patient in a very ordinary dental practice and got on so easily with that couple in the waiting room. He was an excellent patient. The official in the reading was an excellent person for Jesus to help. He realized his need, realized that Jesus could help him, and realized that status cut no ice with Jesus. Do you think the same thing applies today? It's not always easy to recognise our need. It's not always as clear-cut as having a sick child. Sometimes we need to try and figure out what our real need is, not just the one which is the most obvious one. You or I may find a relationship difficult. We may think that we should ask Jesus to improve it. But perhaps the reason the relationship is difficult lies inside me. Perhaps it touches a sore point for some reason. We may need to ask for help to find that sore spot so that Jesus can heal it. But here's a cautionary tale. Anne and I once lived in a house where we could never seem to escape the attention of the two children who lived down the road and who seemed to knock for our boys the minute we got in. It became a real difficult thing for us, so we started to pray that the family would move away. About a year later, we moved. With God, we can ask, but we should never presume to tell him how to answer. The royal official told Jesus the problem, his son was dying, and the solution, Jesus should come to his house and heal him. Did you spot in the account of this incident the fact that Jesus did not go to the man's house at all? He healed the boy from a distance. Did you also marvel at the trust level of this official? Jesus said to him, "Go home, your son will live." And he went home without Jesus. I'm going to read the passage again and see how many of the things that we've talked about you can pick up, and see what you would like to say to Jesus as our time together comes to an end. When the 2 days were over, Jesus left for Galilee. He himself had declared that a prophet is not honoured in his own hometown. On his arrival, the Galileans received him well, having seen all that he had done in Jerusalem during the festival which they too had attended. He went again to Cana in Galilee, where he had changed the water into wine. And there was a royal official whose son was ill at Capernaum. Hearing that Jesus had arrived in Galilee from Judea, he went and asked him to come and cure his son, as he was at the point of death. Jesus said to him, "Unless you see signs and portents, you will not believe." "Sir," answered the official, "come down before my child dies." "Go home," said Jesus, "your son will live." The man believed what Jesus had said and went on his way home. And while he was still on his way, his servants met him with the news that his boy was alive. He asked them when the boy had begun to recover. They replied, "The fever left him yesterday at the 7th hour. The father realized that this was exactly the time when Jesus had said, "Your son will live." And he and all his household believed. This new sign, the second, Jesus performed on his return from Judea to Galilee. A prayer. Lord, you have given all to me. To you I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Only give me your love and your grace. That is enough for me.